What's going on, guys? It's Jack Gills 1875 here, and today I'm joined by a very, very special guest on the channel. It is Toni Malone, or should I say Toni Macaroni, joining us here on the channel. So thank you so much, Toni, for taking your time out to speak to me.
Thank you, Jack, for having me.
So I've just got a few questions about Hibs and your time in Austria, because as a lot of people will be interested in that element of your career. So I'll just jump right into the questions. First of all, what attracted you to Hibs?
I think for me, the biggest thing was that it was an English-speaking country. So it was it would be a lot easier for me to adapt. I also, my brother-in-law is from Edinburgh, so that also was the reason why I was interested in playing football in Scotland, and it just seemed like a good club after talking to the coaches. So yeah.
That's good. That's what I like to hear. Yeah. My second question for you is, you scored against Dundee United on your first Hibs start in the SWPL Cup group stage. So how did that feel, getting your first start for Hibs and scoring, obviously in the 10-2 victory over Dundee United?
Oh yeah, it was good. It kind of was a funny goal, because I just kind of tapped it in, so it wasn't really anything crazy special, but it was still special to score and start. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed that day. So,
and obviously you got your first league start against Rangers, which unfortunately it wasn't the best results, but I thought you had a really good individual performance. So how did it feel, getting out in the league and obviously playing a different type of opponent? Obviously Rangers are one of the top sides in the country, so how did it feel, playing against that standard of opposition?
Yeah, it was really good. They obviously are a very good team and they have a lot of good players, but I think as a team we performed really well. And I wish we would have walked away with a point. But it is what it is, and I think we learned a lot from it. But I think it said a lot that the result was so close and it was an unfortunate goal. So I think we did learn a lot from it, though.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely been better performances from what we've put on against Rangers in the past. It was a lot closer game, and I definitely agree with you that we deserved a lot more than what we got out of that game. So my next question for you is, what are you hoping to achieve in a Hibs shirt? What are your sort of ambitions whilst you're playing for us?
I think our ambitions, as a team, is to maybe, get as high as we can in the league, get top 2. That would be amazing. I think we still have a chance at that. I think just placing as high as we can in the league and just, taking it game by game and just doing as best as we can, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And, obviously you've had a bit of experience of the club in general. You came on Easter Road with Alexa for the game against Kilmarnock in the Premier Sports Cup. What did you make of the atmosphere at Easter Road? Obviously that isn't a full Easter Road, that we were still at limited crowds back then, but what did you make of the atmosphere, and what did you make of how the men's team played?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
No problem. Sorry. So obviously you came along Easter Road for the game against Kilmarnock with Alexa.
Yes.
So how did that feel? What was the atmosphere like, and how did it feel to experience a men's game?
Yeah, it was super cool. That was my first time kind of being there. The fans, it was just so interesting being there because the fans got so into it. And obviously they're very big supporters. So I think just kind of being in that environment, for the first time, was super cool. We got a tour of the stadium and stuff, which was really special. So yeah, we had a really fun time. That was kind of it might have been my first week being there. So yeah, it was really cool.
It must have been really special to get to. That was my fast Edinburgh talking there with that question, so I'll make sure
I know. I was like, your accent kind of got a little heavy right there.
That happens a lot. But sort of, that must have been really, really special. And obviously you didn't play in the game, but the derby at Easter Road, that must have been really special for you as a person in the team. Having that crowd. So what was that like on the night? Obviously, unfortunately, you didn't play, but you still got to take it all in.
No, I didn't get in that game. But just seeing so many people there watching our game was super cool. I think it's been something that not just in Scottish women's football, but just women's football in general, just getting people to the games and supporting. And I think that, you know, around 5,500 people showed up. And I think that was huge for not just our team, but for the league and for women's football. So I thought it was literally so amazing. And I think everyone enjoyed that night. So
I think definitely I enjoyed that. I got to be in the posh seats that night. I was up in the
I saw you had a really nice suit on.
Yeah, it was a great night. It was a great night. I really enjoyed it. So moving on, my next question for you is how are you finding life in Edinburgh right now? How have you adapted to Edinburgh as a city?
Yeah, the roads are very small. So my first week here, I almost got hit a couple of different times because I naturally forget that you guys drive on the other side of the road. And so that was actually kind of like dangerous. But once I learned my lesson, I almost got hit a couple of times. It got better. But the city's obviously very beautiful. Public transportation is super nice here. Back home, we all just drive. We don't really use public transportation unless you're living in like New York or something like that. But so that's been super, super nice. Back home in Oregon, I actually have very similar weather to here because it rains a lot. And so, yeah, the weather hasn't been too bad here. So honestly, I think as far as life goes, I'm adapting pretty well. So
I think you'll be adapting a bit better because obviously poor Gabby coming from Florida, she's going to have to.
Oh my gosh.
Winter.
Yeah, she's gonna struggle.
And plus you've been in Austria as well, which is pretty rough conditions over there. So that brings me conveniently on to my next point, which is before joining us at Hibs, you spent a little spell in Old Österreich with Wacker Innsbruck. How did you end up in Austria? How did you end up going from the collegiate game in America, and how did you end up in Austria?
Yeah, so after I was done with college soccer, I just knew I wanted to go to Europe. Unfortunately, COVID hit right after that. And so it was really hard to find a team. I did hire an agent, but I ended up actually doing all the work by myself. So I found the team by myself. I did everything by myself. I actually got this contract here to Hibs by myself as well. So I probably need to get a new agent. Anyway, though, after COVID, or when COVID hit, there was a period where a lot of European teams were not signing any foreigners, let alone Americans. So that was difficult because a lot of us couldn't go overseas. And so we were just kind of waiting and training. And then it was during, what month was it? I think it was January of this past year that I reached out to the team in Austria. They reached out back to me, and I just kind of went from there. And so that's kind of how I ended up there. It's
interesting. It's obviously, it must have been really difficult, like you were saying, with COVID. So moving on to my next question, obviously Wacker Innsbruck are quite a big name within Austrian football, both the men's and the women's game. Obviously they've won, I think, 7 Österreich Bundesligas in the men's game, and then in the women's game they've been quite successful there. What was it like playing for such a big club within the Austrian game?
Yeah, honestly, I was super honored to play for that team. I really enjoyed my time there. They're a very historic club. It's just like this one, very historic. So yeah, it meant a lot to me. Obviously, when you go to a new country, you have to deal with things like adapting to not just a new team, but a different country and how they play. So, and that's just something that you have to deal with wherever you go. With Austria, obviously, there's a language barrier as well, which was tough. So obviously, I don't speak German. But yeah, you'd be in the locker room and they would just speak so fast. And the German was so fast. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, I have no idea what's going on. which is another reason why I wanted to go to an English speaking country, just because I can understand, even though you guys have pretty thick accents, and it's kind of, honestly, it can be hard to understand you guys. I can still understand a lot better than I would German. So
yeah, definitely. I can feel your pain on that, because I can speak German almost fluently. And
yeah, I know. I realized that. I've seen some of your tweets, and they were like in full German. I was like, who is this guy?
I can speak German almost fluently, but Austria's just nope.
They're a dialect.
It's the dialect I can't. Plattdeutsch is what they call it in Austria. I can't cope with that, because I did German at school, and this is going completely off on a tangent. But anyway, I did German at school, and like the teacher recommended we watch stuff to improve our listening. So I watched a documentary about the police in Graz, which is a city in Austria, and I couldn't understand a word of what they were saying. I'm like, is this even German? Because obviously I learned German, Hochdeutsch, how Germans speak it, or how people in certain parts of Germany speak it, and then I go to Austria. It's like, wow, because and the other thing is I speak quite with a lot of Berlin dialect. So if I walked into a pub in Austria and be like "Moin" instead of "Grüß Gott," they'd be like, "What?" So I think it's difficult with them. I think it's really difficult with German. It is a difficult language to learn, and then Austrian German is a whole other world. But it's good to hear that you enjoy playing for Wacker Innsbruck, because they are a club, like you said, with a lot of history, like ourselves, like Hibs, and it must have been good to play for them. And obviously, what did you think of the stadium? Did you like the stadium you played at?
Yeah, so it's kind of, the situation's kind of similar here. Like, obviously our main home to play on isn't Easter Road, unfortunately, so that's kind of similar. It's kind of similar with them, but I got to see a little bit of the stadium. It was beautiful, because it's right in like the mountains, the Alps. And every day at training, I would just look up and just see these like huge mountains. And so that was something that I've never really experienced before, that tall of mountains, and honestly that cold of weather. So
yeah, I can imagine. And obviously, Austria is a beautiful country, as like you're saying there. And,
very beautiful.
I think the stadium's called Neuer Tivoli, the Innsbruck Stadium.
Tivoli
so
Stadium,
it's quite smart. It's quite smart. So my next question for you is, what was the Österreich Frauen Bundesliga like in terms of the level of football, and how does it compare to the SWPL 1?
Yeah, I think in the Bundesliga, the teams are a bit more even. And so throughout the league, there obviously are a couple of teams that dominate, but it's not such a huge difference, than here, I would say, because obviously we have top, 4 teams, and then, it kind of drops, it could drop off. I think in Austria, it was just more even. Obviously you have to take every game serious and act the same way as if we were playing Rangers and, Partick Thistle,
So in terms of that, teams, obviously I follow a bit of Austrian football, so I know that the sort of top teams also like St. Pölten.
They're very good.
And and the one question I sort of want to ask you from your time there was, Rapid in Austria, Vienna, are they a sort of force within the women's game? I know they're big within the men's football in Austria, but were the Vienna clubs good within the Frauen Bundesliga?
Very good. I think too, it's like with that league, they're very technical, and all of them are very technical, and they play very, fast. But I was impressed by that league. So, and I didn't know any of their Americans that had been there. Obviously I knew people who played in the German, Bundesliga, but so I was very curious about the level. But yeah, with Austrian football, and it's probably very similar to German football, it's like the game, at least compared to the States, was more slowed down and more technical. So you had to use your brain a lot more than like your athleticism. So
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because I watch a lot of the German Frauen Bundesliga, and you notice that. You're talking about Americans in the Frauen Bundesliga. Obviously, the one I picked out is Summer Green. Obviously, she's at SC Sand. So, do you feel like you're following a sort of similar pattern? I spoke to Alexa about this when I had a chat with her, but do you feel you're following a sort of similar pattern as these Americans? Obviously, Summer Green's played for SC Sand, and I think she might get a bigger move this season. Do you feel you sort of follow that pattern of, you've come to Europe, you've played in one country, and you've played in another country, and do you sort of feel you're following that sort of similar pattern?
Like moving up in clubs, you mean? Like just
like
I do.
And moving countries, like Summer Green's done with Sand, because I think she played in Denmark before she played in Germany.
Yeah, I don't know of her. Her name's kind of sounding familiar now that you've said it a couple times, but yeah, I think that for me, I'm just looking at how can I move my career in a positive way, and I think it's kind of cool because like with here I'm on a year contract, and so it's like, oh, where do I go next? What's my next move? What's the best for me? Because I think ultimately for me, I just want to grow as much as a player and just kind of become, the best I can with getting as high as I can in my career. So I definitely see myself progressing. So
that's good. I like that. I like a bit of ambition. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. So the next question for you is, obviously it was during COVID, so you didn't really get a good idea of it, but what was the support for the women's game like in Austria? Did you feel well supported at all when you were at Wacker? And how does it compare to Scotland?
Yeah, I have noticed with the women's game in Austria, I think that they're still trying to build that support. I think coming here, I noticed a big difference in the support I got here versus the support I got there. And maybe that's a cultural thing. But I've really enjoyed my time here, and I think people, like our coaching staff, is awesome. They're very supportive. I feel very supported by them. And so obviously that's a really good feeling. Because like in Austria, it's like my coach spoke German, very broken English, and so when I had a concern, and when I tried to speak, it was very limited in how I could talk, and some of the girls spoke very good English, but it's still not the same because they'd have to translate everything. But I think coming here was probably a good move for me, quality of life wise and soccer wise. So yeah,
that's good. I think I completely agree with you. Obviously Austria's they are improving the women's game. Also the Austrian national team's quite impressive now, but the only problem is the good Austrian players all play in Germany, so
exactly
they've got that problem with the league at home that they've maybe not got because they've hardly got any players from their own league playing there. And I think you've noticed that Laura Freigang, Maria Hubinger, they all play for Turbine Potsdam, Eintracht Frankfurt, so they'll play in Germany. But my next question for you is, we've sort of touched on this before, but as an American, what was it like going to Austria and living there? And obviously you've talked about your difficulties in learning German, so I'll sort of touch on the first thing first. What was the sort of like having adapted culture? I think it would be difficult enough for a Scottish or an English person moving to Austria, but you're coming from America where obviously things are different to even here. What was it like going to Austria,
guys,
trying to adapt to the culture?
Yeah, I've been to Europe before, and so I kind of went into it being like, yeah, like it'll be different, but honestly it was definitely a culture shock and a half. Like it was everything was just so different. And I think too, and this is not like a diss to their culture or anything, but they are a colder culture, so they come off more cold than Americans do. And so when you're adapting to a team, sometimes it can be difficult. And I think similar to the Hibs, they hadn't had many foreigners before, so obviously that you have to adapt to that. But it was difficult, like, because when the coach would explain drills, I wouldn't know what they were saying, and then girls on the team would have to fastly translate what was going on, and then I would, try to listen, but sometimes the translation was kind of off, or and they would forget to leave out things. And so you just have to quickly just adapt and just go with the drill, because they're also trying to listen to the drill, and they're trying to like literally translate in their head to English,
It's
so it was difficult. Like I said earlier, like being in the locker room and you just be sitting there and they would just like speak so fast, and you're just like, oh my goodness. But the girls were super nice about it. Like they thought it was funny, obviously. That I had no idea what they were saying, but yeah.
So I think the next part of it, I think I know it's probably going to be a big 9, but sprechen Sie Deutsch? Have you even ein bisschen, a little bit?
Oh my goodness.
No,
that's a tough phrases? One. Yes, they say like so geil, which means like so cool. Yeah, and then I know a little bit.
I've seen one that you obviously, because you obviously got an injury when you were Austria. Gute Besserung. You've picked up that one.
Does that mean good luck better? Or best wishes? Get better. Yes.
Gute Besserung. Yes. Yeah.
People told me that. Yeah. But honestly, too, with support, like when I did get injured, the community was super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very like, oh, we can't wait to have you back. Very nice. And obviously, I told them I was coming back, and then something came up, playing for this team, so that I left. But like I said, it was the best choice for me. So
yeah, I think they understand that as well. But I think you've picked up some experiences in Austria. Then again, I think it definitely agrees. Well, I might sound a bit biased here, but it's definitely better to come and play for the mighty Hibs in Edinburgh, being in the Tyrol. But the Tyrol's a beautiful part of Austria. So like we've talked about earlier. So what was it like living in such a beautiful, because it's like something out of a film, it's like something out of
oh my gosh, I literally would post like videos of the mountains, and everyone back home would be so in awe. They would be like, you literally look like you're living in heaven. I still, like, I look through videos on my phone and I still can't really believe how beautiful it was. Because I would walk to my flat that they gave me, and I would just look up, and the mountains were the tallest. Like I keep saying it over and over again, but the mountains were the tallest thing I've ever seen. They were so beautiful.
I used to go on holiday there when I was like a kid down to Meyerhofen, which is near Innsbruck, beautiful little town. And so my next question for you is, you've come over here, and do you feel having two fellow Americans in the team? You obviously got Gabby and Alexa. Do you feel that helped you settle in?
Oh my gosh, yes.
2 Americans in the team.
Yes, that's something I didn't really get. In my last club, I was the only American. I think I was the only American that they've ever had. And so the other girls I came in with, one was from Latvia, and then one was from Estonia, and then one was from Japan. So we were all so different, came from such different backgrounds, which has its pros and cons. But it's so nice having Americans here. It's so nice. I can't even. I'm so thankful that I have other Americans here.
Definitely, it must be good too, because they've had some. Obviously, Gabby's played in Europe before as well. I think she played in Portugal. Yeah, with Boa Vista. So obviously, it's good to have Gabby, who's had the similar experiences to you there as well.
Yes, and 100%.
Alexa's new to club football. She's obviously just come straight from the college game. So again, it's good to have somebody that's had that experience with you as well. So do you feel like when you're on the training pitch and everything, do you and Alexa link up well together when you're playing the wee training games as the two Americans? You got a wee Team America thing going on.
We do, which is really funny. Sometimes we're playing like very small-sided games. We'll find each other quite often, and it's kind of funny, but it must just be that, you know, roommate bond. So
definitely. So the next question for you is, what how would you describe yourself as a player to the fans? Obviously, we've not seen much of you yet. Hopefully we'll see a bit more of you as the season goes on, but how would you describe yourself as a player? Because I got a bit confused with your position once, so how would you describe yourself as a player?
I get confused too, don't worry. Yeah, I think it's tough. I was actually talking to my assistant coach about this today, but yeah, I'm a player that just gets moved around quite a bit, and this happens everywhere I go. You know, so I can't really tell you what position I am right now. I think like I said, I had a conversation with my coach, and he was like, yeah, we're still trying to find your niche, you know? And I said, yeah, I understand. But you know, hopefully we'll get that sorted soon. But I played everywhere, like in training. I think yesterday I played like left outside back, and sometimes I'll play center mid, or I'll play, you know, like a forwardish, like outside, mid-ish position. So it's kind of everywhere for me, but I'm hoping soon that I'll be able to, you know, just kind of play one or two positions max. So yeah.
That's good. Now, from what you said there, if I was to compare you to a player, I'd definitely compare you to the Germany international Lena Oberdorf. She's a bit like that. She can play all over the pitch.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I forgot the question that you asked me to describe myself. Sorry, I went on a little tangent there.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. It's all about you. So on you go.
I would say that's a tough one. I would say that I'm aggressive. That I bring a lot of energy. I'd say I bring quality on the ball. I like to play forward and play fast. So that's how I would describe myself. So
yeah, I liked the role you were playing in against Rangers. I thought, like I said, you know, I've thought you put in a really good individual performance. I think I like that role you're playing. Sort of, you know, I was surprised that because you know Rangers have got some really strong players, and the way you were just muscling off the ball, it was brilliant. I thought that's excellent.
Oh, thank you.
That's what you want. So I'll round it up with two finishing questions. So my first question is sort of a two-parter. What got you into football, or soccer, as they say in America, and what was the football culture like in where you come from in America? Have you got a big MLS club near to where you come from?
So I started playing when I was about 6. So in America, I don't know if you've heard of the 99ers. So it was like our national team, and so I had like Mia Hamm, Brandy Chastain, and they had just won the World Cup, and it was like it changed America, and it changed women's soccer in America. And so my parents saw it, and so they put me in it, and I just loved it. Like I fell in love with it. So that's how I got into it. All my siblings, besides my brother, played soccer. So that's definitely brilliant. A family thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And of course, the second part of that question was, you're obviously from Oregon. What's the football culture like around there? And have you got a big MLS club nearby?
Okay, so yeah, we have the Portland Timbers, and then we have the Portland Thorns. So Portland Thorns, huge NWSL club.
Yeah.
They have like world-class players on that team. So it's very cool to come from a soccer environment like that. So
yeah, that's good. No, it's good to hear Portland. I forgot all about them. That's my American geography letting me down there. I forgot that Portland was in Oregon. So yeah, that's my American geography letting me down. But, no, that's a big team. You know, it's good to have that nearby. So would you say you were a Portland Timbers fan then? Or I would definitely would say that I try to watch a lot of European football. But yeah, I definitely would say I'm a Portland Timbers fan. That's good. That's good. They're good. They're a good team, Portland Timbers. I like them. I like good colours as well. Green. I like that.
I know.
So just to finish up for today, and this is a difficult one, but I always like to hit people this one at the end, is describe your time at Hibs so far in one word.
Oof. Let's see. I would say, I don't know if this makes sense, but evolving. Like I would say I don't even know if that's the right word to use, but I feel like as a player I am evolving, if that makes sense.
Good. I like that. I like that. No, that's good. I like that. That's a good answer. I like that. Self-improvement and everything. So that was my interview with Toni. I really enjoyed this. A bit unorthodox. Usually we went off on a few good tangents on this one.
I know.
Interviews. But I really enjoyed it. So thank you so much, Toni, for taking your time out to speak to me again.
Jack.
Brilliant. And,
always a pleasure.
Remember, folks, to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe for unique football and content like this. I'll be doing German football, Russian football. So keep your eyes peeled for it all, guys. And I will see you all in a while. Jack out.